Hello, I'm Dr. Leon Stutzman, aka Doc, with another one of my little videos designed to help you to get through these strange days in which we find ourselves, and these are strange days indeed. We needed an automobile. We were going to start traveling as evangelists, and we needed a road machine. The problem was the car that we were driving, well, you might be able to identify with this, was one of the kind of cars that when you turned on the ignition, the 3 red lights stayed on. And when you went down the road, the steering wheel literally went up and down like this because the front end alignment was so bad. What to do but take it back to where I purchased it and hope that they might have mercy on the trade-in. The car dealer said, well, there's only one car here that would fit your need as a road machine, and that's this 1972 Lincoln Continental. Take it for a test drive. I took it for a test drive, fell in love with it, wanted it. Asked the price, they gave me a figure. I called my father-in-law, who back in those days was arranging my car loans. He said, I'll work on it for you. He worked on it and came back and said, well, they're going to have to come down a little bit, which they were willing to do. Then it was the bank and the car dealership haggling back and forth with my father-in-law to get this deal done. I was getting frustrated, so I decided to go upstairs and take a nap. I laid my head down and dreamed a dream. And in the dream, there was this heavy-set, short man with real thick, greasy, curly hair walking out of a building with keys in his hands, and he said, you can have either one, take over payment. I'm dreaming this great dream in the midst of this car frustration when there's a knock on the door. My mother-in-law woke me up, and she said, Bob's on the phone. He wants to talk to you. Went downstairs to talk to my father-in-law. Bob said, I just talked to the bank, and they said there's no way they're going to finance that Lincoln, so you might as well give up on it. I was a little aggravated. I was a little frustrated. So I went back upstairs and did what every good Pentecostal person would do in a situation like that. I laid down, I looked up to heaven, and I said, I'd like to pick up that dream just where I left off. I had no sooner dozed off when there's another knock on the door. Dorothy wakes me up again. Bob's on the phone. I went downstairs really aggravated and frustrated by this point. Bob's on the phone, and he said, just talk to the bank again. They said they won't finance that Lincoln for you, but they've got 2 Cadillacs over there, and you can have either one of them, just take over payments. I said, let's go. He said they're closed. So I slept that night with great expectation and anticipation, got up early the next morning. We drove over to the east side of Dallas to Castle Linda Bank, and as we walked across the parking lot, out of the bank came this little short man, heavy set, real thick, dark, greasy hair, lots of curls, holding 2 sets of keys. The man I dreamed about the day before, Curtis Herrerity was his name, and he looked at me and he said, son, we'll take your car in on trade. He didn't even look at it. We'll take your car in on trade, and you can have either of these 2 Cadillacs. All you have to do is take over payments. And that afternoon, I drove off of the lot of Castle Linda Bank on my 21st birthday in a 1972, 2-year-old 1972 Cadillac Sedan DeVille. And I knew that God was a God of divine provision. Now, why am I telling you this story? Because I know these are recessionary times. I know these are difficult days. I know that there are people that are struggling. And I want you to know that whatever your need is, God's got the supply. Let me say that again. Whatever your need is, God's got the supply. All you need to do is flex your faith. And these are days to flex your faith. What do I mean by flexing your faith? I mean you need to reach out like you've never reached out before, believe like you have never believed before, and expect with the greatest expectations of your life. Understanding that even if you don't get exactly what you think you want, God has something better. I've driven about 21, 22 Cadillacs since then, along with a host of other vehicles, because I've always enjoyed automobiles. I learned something on my 21st birthday. I learned that God is a God of divine provision. I learned that he's able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that you can ask or think, according to the power that works in us. And I learned what you already know. God is a good God. I want to encourage you to flex your faith in these strange days in which we find ourselves. If this little video has encouraged you, I want you to encourage someone else by sharing it with them, and that would encourage me. This Sunday at Aspire Church, I'll be preaching the message, Flexing Your Faith. I'm going to show you some things about faith that you may never have seen before. I'm going to remind you of some principles that will enable you to flex your faith and to experience abundance in a time of lack and limitation. Whatever your need, God has to supply, and this message will help you to tap into that divine supply. Flex your faith this Sunday at aspirechurch.tv. or on Facebook at Aspire Church TV. That's aspirechurch.tv or Aspire Church TV, 10 o'clock Sunday morning, Eastern Daylight Time. It is going to be powerful. Friday, you need to think outside of the box if you're going to flex your faith. And I'll tell you about a car that I drove for a couple of years that it just aggravated the religious people. But that's why I drove the car. And I was thinking outside of the box. I'll show you some things about thinking outside of the box. It's going to be good. I'm Dr. Leon Stutzman. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you again on one of these little videos.